Hi, good morning, everybody. So I have spent time this morning grading your work for assignment number 2 with defining the company culture and working through all those things. It's early here, by the way. It's like 7. The sun is coming up. Workout hair, don't care. But I'm grading your papers, and largely everyone is doing so great, but we all as a whole class are kind of missing the meaning of the first question. So I want to talk through that for just a few minutes. If I've already graded your paper and you missed this question, please go ahead and resubmit just that question. Everything else will stay the same and I'll increase your grade. If you have your paper and I haven't graded it yet, you can wait for me to grade it. Or if you watch this and you're like, oh, I missed that one too, go ahead and resubmit so that we can make sure everyone understands what company culture is and what culture as a whole means. What is culture? So culture, we all have a culture. It's that learned system of knowledge, behaviors, attitudes, beliefs, values, and norms that are shared by a group of people. So it's when you walk in to a restaurant and there's a bunch of Americans there and you're in America, you know the norms, you know what's socially acceptable, you know how to behave, you know what tip expectations are, you have an idea of how the server is going to treat you, what the host or hostess is going to be like. But if you go to another country and you go to a restaurant and you don't have anyone around you to guide you in that culture, you don't necessarily know what the expectations are. So that is a very sort of shallow look at what culture is. It goes a lot deeper than that, but it's an overview. Then culture is generally, then if we break it down, it's how people think, it's what people do, and it's how they use things to sustain their lives. How do I use money to sustain my life? Believe it or not, money is used and viewed very differently from culture to culture. In the company that we're looking at and the companies that you work at, companies have their own culture. When I started working at Bryan, I'd been working for another institution for a number of years. And even though I was still in the field of education, still teaching many of the same classes, the company had its own culture and I had to learn that. I had to learn what it was like to work at Bryan, and I had to learn who the students at Bryan are versus these other places. There's a reason you chose Bryan too, and it has something to do with its culture. When we define the company culture, this is question number 1, we're looking at it in 2 ways. We want to know if it's individualistic or collectivistic. We also want to know if it's high context or low context. The individualistic is I. See that I there for individualistic? It's all about me, individual goals, being self-reliant. What is best for the individual? What is in it for me? In America, we are an individualistic culture. We are very self-reliant, sort of the idea of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you are responsible for you. As we look at collectivistic cultures, now remember, this is something you learn as an infant. It's something that's bred in you as you grow up in your particular culture. Collectivism is about the we. It's a focus on group goals, being incredibly other-oriented. I go down and the group goes up. What is best for the group as a whole, the collection of people? When we look at high context versus low context, high context is all about the tone. Not what is said, but how it is said. Have you ever asked someone, how was your day? And they say, fine. What do you infer? Wasn't very good. How was your day? Fine. Sounds pretty decent. So I'm looking at nonverbal cues. I'm listening to the tone of the voice. I'm looking at the body language, and I'm making an inference about what that person actually means. There's a high value then on the facial expressions and the tone of voice. When I look at low context, words matter. It doesn't matter how it's said, it's what is said. So If I say, well, how was your day? And you say, fine, I'm not going to pay attention at all to your tone. I hear that you said it was fine. Awesome, you had a fine day. So there's fewer contextual nonverbal cues used. Therefore, when you go to answer number 1 for this assignment, or you review the feedback that I gave you if you lost credit on this assignment, I want you to look at Abril and Associates and say, is this an individualistic or collectivistic culture? Are they all about the self and the individuals in the company? Are you sort of on your own path? Or is Abril capital and everyone else is secondary? So think about that. Then tell me what you think the company would be. Is it going to be low context where we just focus on words, the nonverbal is not important? Or is it a high context culture with the nonverbals and the tone, the body language being paramount? Then look at the case study and give me some specific examples to make your case. It is individualistic because, or it's collectivistic because. Same for low context and high context. So if you have any questions, just holler at me. I'm happy to work with you. Oh, you see that kitty cat back there? That's Max, you guys. He is kind of temperamental, but he's a very sweet kitty. I hope you guys have a good day. Thank you for giving me the privilege of being able to work with you and read your work and trusting me with that. I look forward to talking with you later. Bye-bye.